Hello and welcome back to the Pylon to Pylon podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brett Landmeier. Alongside with me, I have
Kevin Brueggemann.
And today, we got a fun episode coming for you. Because earlier today, I was sitting there thinking, as I'm working grounds crew at Wrigley Field, I'm wondering, a lot of people, their dream destination to go to for a baseball game might be Wrigley Field. But what would my dream destinations be for college football stadiums? Because personally, I've never been to a college football stadium. I've never experienced a college football game in person, and that led me to create this list of the top 16 places I would like to go. Yeah. And Kevin here is going to help me break it down. So, yeah, Kevin, let's get into it. Kevin, what do we got at 16?
Yeah, I've only been to one game myself, so I'm also I haven't been to a whole lot. But at 16, we're going to come in with Iowa here. I think just the culture of the school is really what brings me to here. Like, I don't know any specific traditions they have, but I just know that the student body is a really fun student body. They got a fun team to watch. I feel like they're always in every game, so like, whenever you go, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, one specific tradition I can think of is the Kinnick Wave, where they wave to that children's hospital where all the sick children are at, and, that seems like a very fun tradition that I would like to experience at some point or another.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I mean, also just the fact that, playing at Iowa in, I think it's November, they're unbeatable. So at 16, we got Iowa. Moving on to 15, we got Florida State. At Florida State, we know that they got the chop going there, and it just, I don't know, every time I watch a Florida State home game, I just see an incredible atmosphere that I feel like I wish I could be a part of.
Yeah, I feel like students going down to Florida to go to college, they like to party. They know what they're doing. They're going to have some fun. The chop is sick. I know they're not the only place to do it, but just to be a part of that environment would be really cool.
Yeah.
All right, coming in just above Florida State, we got Clemson here at 14, probably a little lower than maybe some other people would have it. We're both not huge Clemson fans, so it slipped down our list a little bit. But that pregame stuff that they do it's insane. The whole bus ride and then run down the hill, I gotta say, it's pretty electric.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to experience the running down the hill. Personally, I would love to just run down that hill. That seems like a great time. That would, flash me back to some childhood memories. But yeah, I mean, that's all I got for Clemson. There's not really much to it. But at number 13, coming in on our list, we got the Wisconsin Badgers. They got the jump around tradition, and I feel like that alone is what gives it its 13th spot. I don't know if you have much more to say about that.
I was gonna say the same thing. I feel like that tradition alone is what makes, not necessarily alone, because the people of Wisconsin, obviously they know how to drink. They like to have fun.
They do know how to party.
But that tradition alone, I feel like if we were ranking traditions, that would be really high up there. But as the overall field experience, it gets him on the list, but 13's a good spot for him. All right, next, after Wisconsin, kind of a close one here, we got Tennessee. They do the checkered thing. I feel like that's the biggest draw for me, is just to be a part of that crowd, be a part of that checker against some big SEC games. I know fans down south always go crazy for SEC versus SEC.
Yeah. Last year, Tennessee looked like one of the best atmospheres to be in. Watching that game versus Alabama was incredible. The atmosphere really sold me on that place for that game. I just felt like that last year Tennessee might have been the best football school to be at. It just seemed like everything was going their way, and the fans there just seemed like they enjoyed it more than ever. I thought it was fucking awesome that they took down the goalpost and carried it out of the stadium. That's just incredible. I was very I was very much looking forward to maybe visiting Tennessee one day at that point.
Didn't they throw it in a river or a lake or something?
Toss it in a river.
I don't even know how they get it all the way over to the river. That's insane. But coming in right above Tennessee, we got Boise State. I think the big thing for both of us here is just that blue field.
Absolutely. There's no other logic behind the Boise State pick other than just the simple fact that they have a blue field.
I feel like Boise, I've heard, is a nice town, but I mean, the blue field is really what drew us to it.
Absolutely. At number 10, we got the Swamp in Florida. Always seems like just like a crazy vibe that they got there, where it just seems like every game seems like so meaningful and action packed, and the fans in that place, they rock it. Like the stadium just seems like it shakes when you're there, and just the name alone.
I know, the Swamp.
The Swamp,
like that just makes me want to go.
That's awesome. I think that alone might even be ranked too low because that name is something else. But we got it at 10. Kevin, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, the Swamp is funny to me because I feel like if you were not a college football fan at all and you went in there, you would probably think that the Florida Gators were the best team to ever grace God's earth. And, like, they haven't really been too great in the past 5-6 years, but those fans show out like they're Bama, and it's insane. Coming in after the Swamp, and probably another close one, Virginia Tech. They talk about pregame rituals. Enter Sandman. That's electric right there.
It's something that I feel like I have never seen in any atmosphere in America. The fact when that song starts playing and you hear the drums playing in the background,
whole crowd goes
everyone's
into it.
Jumping up and down, singing. It just seems like just a crazy atmosphere to be a part of. Like, I get goosebumps even thinking.
I know, I'm literally
about
like
sitting
goosebumps
there
right now.
I just sitting there, the chills up my spine, thinking about how electric that would be as my football team walks out on that field.
Could you imagine being like a Virginia Tech player coming out of that tunnel? Like, you could put me in that tunnel right now, and I haven't played football since 8th grade, and I feel like I would be trucking people.
I think I'd black out. I think I'd black out at that point. Like, that seems like a surreal experience that, like, you wouldn't get anywhere else.
Literally. You could feel that.
At number 8, we got an absolute zoo, as people say, Autzen Stadium in Oregon. Not many traditions that I know lie at this place, but it just seems like every game is packed, and it seems like it is packed with people that want to see the Ducks win.
Yeah, I don't know any traditions either, but Oregon is like very traditional kind of school, and they've had a storied history, so I'm sure there's a lot that we probably don't know. And I think another thing that adds to Oregon is just being in Portland. They got the beautiful landscape around it. The stadium itself is beautiful. The views are going to be great. And of course, Oregon's just a great team, and their fans like always believe in them no matter what the matchup is. So it's going to be a crazy environment.
At number 7, we got Nebraska. Now, Nebraska was a school that was very popular a little bit before our time, I'd say. But
just a little.
In light of some influencers, other podcast members like Will Compton have put me on, per se, to such a incredible atmosphere that Nebraska seems to be. They sell out. They had the record of sellouts at a game.
They sold out like a volleyball game at their football stadium.
it's insane what they can do, and like it just seems like everyone there wants to be there and they want to root for the Huskers, and I feel like that is something that just would be awesome to be a part of, just rooting for the Huskers one day. I don't know. And I mean, I know a lot of schools have this by now, and like a lot of professional teams as well have like transitioned to this, but like they have like a nice light show as well that like I saw last year, and you know, bring on the black shirts if you know what I mean. Nebraska fans, like I'm loving Nebraska's atmosphere, and I would absolutely love to experience a game at Nebraska.
Yeah, I feel like Nebraska's like Florida, but on cocaine. Like, if you think Florida's fans are crazy for the team that they have, like, Nebraska has been one of the worst teams getting worse in the Big Ten up until the Matt Rule hire in the most recent history. Yeah. But their fans still act like it's the 70s, and they are right by them. Nation number one.
Amazing to see what they can do.
Nuts. Coming in right above them now, we got Texas, the Longhorns. Stick them up.
Hook them.
I mean, crazy fans. It's Texas. Like, anywhere you go in Texas, you're going to get crazy fans.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a given for this one. But the stadium is a historic stadium. The program's a historic program. And the fans at this point, if you're like, are historic fans. They're like Dallas Cowboy fans, but college football version.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really have said it any better myself. It's literally just, it's tradition there. It's a football stadium, and it's just a historic place to watch a game. They're going to put up big numbers in attendance at that game, and, you know, it's Longhorn football, you know, it's what's more American than that? At number 5, we got UCLA, but more specifically, the Rose Bowl Stadium, which is an iconic venue in college football history. I think a bucket list for any college football fan to want to go to. Beautiful, beautiful Pasadena, California. Just always looks like a great time.
Yeah. I mean, Pasadena kind of speaks for itself. The stadium, I think if I was going there, I'd probably try to get to a Rose Bowl game, would be above a UCLA game even. Yeah. But to hint at maybe future podcasts here for good rivalries, I would definitely go to a UCLA-USC game in Pasadena. You're going to have a good mix of 50-50 fans. They're both in LA. It's going to be a great game. And talk about beautiful stadiums like Oregon. Man, they got a backdrop and a stadium that's just gorgeous.
Along with just like the history of the stadium itself, which just makes it even more beautiful and perfect. At number 4, coming in, we got Michigan Wolverine Stadium, aka the Big House. Now, the Big House for me kind of relies on one game. The rivalry game between Michigan and Ohio State. Another one of those rivalry games that you might hear about in the future if you come back and listen again. The Big House. It's just like another stadium that just has this like, it just has like an old school feel to it. And you know, you see the maze throughout the whole stadium, and it just seems like a place that always is rocking, always has just Michigan football in their hearts. I would love to just be one with the Big House.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nail with old school. Like, your dad just has an extreme old school vibe to it. I mean, Michigan's been around forever, most wins in all of college football. You'd never catch me there, unfortunately, obviously. But I don't blame anybody else for wanting to go there because the environment there looks amazing. But on the flip side here, coming in at number 3, we got the shoe, Ohio State. The fans, I mean, you see how they get crazy over their coaches, and just even one loss, two losses, they go nuts. And this is the only college football game I've been to, was a Ohio State versus I believe it was Northwestern, and they were drinking by like 6 in the morning. It was an amazing vibe, great time. I don't remember a whole lot of traditions. I do know the tradition where they go OHIO, based on the sections of the field, and then they end it with what's that song called? The
Okay.
I forget what Seven Nation Army. That's what I'm trying to think of. So that was really sick, and then obviously being a huge fan, I'm a huge big fan of this one. But I'd like to see what you gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, there's basically 3 guarantees in life. You got death, you got taxes, and you got Ohio State winning at home. Although they did lose to Michigan last year, I feel like majority of the time you're never going to see Ohio State lose at home. You can just tell it's different there when they play there. It just seems like they're playing at home. They know exactly how to play the field, and it's always it always seems like Ohio State at home, just great atmosphere. They want to be there, and they're gonna blow you out by the third quarter. At number 2 on my side of things, we got Notre Dame. Just. You want to talk about history, you want to talk about classic. I'm talking Notre Dame Stadium. It's beautiful. I haven't experienced a game there, but I have seen it with my own eyes, and it is beautiful. And there's just so much tradition when you just look at it, and just the program itself adds in, and you've got just Notre Dame fans,
Yeah.
passionate ass fans that just want to see their independent team win.
Yeah, South Bend is gorgeous. The campus is gorgeous, and that stadium is gorgeous. I did not go to a college football game there, but I did go to the Winter Classic when it was Hawks versus Bruins, and that was amazing. I mean, just even getting rid of the whole college football culture, and just the beauty of the field and the tradition and everything, and the talk about old school, the old schoolness behind the whole field. It was really cool. It was amazing to see, and I think a college football game there has got to be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And number 1, ending it off with a Big Ten team here, we had to do Penn State. The whiteout.
The whiteout specifically.
Specifically the whiteout.
Kind of the ultimate game to go to, definitely. I mean, just so much. I mean, it just seems like the most electric atmosphere to ever be in. You're just surrounded by a bunch of people wearing white against typically what's usually their biggest game of the year, a must-win game for them. They caused a delay game? Or no, they caused Michigan to have to call a timeout before they even ran a play 2 years ago or whatever it was. That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the whiteout, obviously we're talking specifically, and then the tradition of, I think they have the Mo Bamba tradition. That one. You ever seen that video of J.J. McCarthy, or I think it might have been McCarron, trying to complete a third down, walking up to the center, and the whole crowd is just screaming Mo Bamba. And I mean, I get goosebumps just watching that video. It's sick. I would love to be there. I'm not a huge Penn State fan, but I will be a Penn State fan for one game.
Arguably so. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't be for that whiteout game. But yeah, that's what we got for Dream Destination.
Yeah, that's the top 16 there. Enough deep thinking for today. We're just going to talk into some ball, getting into the on-field play here. We're going to get into a topic. There's a big one going into this season. It's the Heisman Watch. We're going to go top to bottom here because we feel like the top is pretty obvious. I mean, we're gonna have S tier, A, B, and C, and obviously S tier is Caleb Williams, coming off a Heisman win. There's only been one player to win the Heisman twice in a row, or twice in general, I think. But I I wouldn't put it past him at all. This guy, he looks magical.
Yeah, I mean, if you want the closest thing to Patrick Mahomes, it's going to be Caleb Williams. And another season like he had last year, you could easily give that back to him. But, yeah, I mean, it's. You just watch his tape, you'll see that, like, there's not a better player that can improvise like he can. Like, that's what makes Patrick Mahomes so good, is that Mahomes can find anyone and make any throw, and that is a similar factor to what Caleb Williams has. And I mean, playing in the Pac-12 and playing in the collegiate level, that success is going to carry on to this year. So if he went back to back, don't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how Max Duggan could like extend plays last year and just it would always work out. I feel like Williams does the same thing, but it just seems like he planned the whole thing out in his head beforehand somehow. Like he just knew it was going to work out.
Yeah.
There was no luck involved. But we'll head down to A tier now. Coming in the first spot in A tier, we got Drake May. A lot of people are high on him. He's a very accurate passer, very smart passer. Showed out last year really well. He's got a hell of an arm.
Drake May is looking like he's going to be easily in this race for the Heisman. He's playing in a favorable conference as well as Caleb Williams is. And again, just like a similar story where he can compete with any team, is a leader on offense, has a great arm, able to move around, get away from the pass rushers. Drake May is looking like an easy second choice for the second spot. But in the third spot, we got one of my personal favorites, Jaden Daniels from LSU. I feel like he is a little bit slept on in this conversation. Not a lot of people are really focused on him. LSU didn't really accomplish anything in terms of last year. They did win double-digit games. They did beat Bama. But no one's really there. LSU's kind of under the radar this year, and I feel like that's a big factor with Jaden Daniels, their quarterback. Now Jaden Daniels has a year of that system under his belt. It's going to be coming in this year with Brian Kelly again. And I think he has the opportunity to make a big splash in a big spot.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels is in the right environment to be in the Heisman Watch. He's on a team that they're frisky. They can't really go either way, I would say, but I think they could make a huge statement this year, or they maybe just go back into a little bit of more of a, not mediocre, but nothing huge. But I think that he definitely will be a part of if LSU does great this year. If I don't see them playing good without him playing out of his mind, and if he does that, then I think that he can definitely catch the hearts of some people and get that Heisman. But speaking of LSU being a little bit under the radar this year, I think that's because of our next team, or guy on this team is FSU. So we got Jordan Travis coming in our next spot, and they're getting a lot of hype going into this season. It'll be really interesting to see what they do. But similar to Jaden Daniels, I don't see FSU doing good if he has just a regular season.
Yeah, Jordan Travis last year was a big part of Florida State's success. When he was on, they are untouchable, and I think he's a guy that's going to be able to keep that. If he can keep that going, full season, maybe one bad game in there, Florida State or Jordan Travis could definitely be in this conversation for Heisman. I like him in the A tier there, especially with such a good team returning. But now down to B tier, we got Texas quarterback, former Ohio State, Quinn Ewers. Now, Quinn had it was a bit of a disappointing year compared to what we were expecting out of him from last year. He was one of the most highest rated quarterbacks we'd ever seen coming in to college football. And then last year, he did play good, but it wasn't exactly the elite rating that everyone gave him before he came in. But that's not saying he's not elite. So, Kevin?
Yeah, I know that there have been a lot of conversations about just mentality and maturity issues. I don't really like talking about it personally myself because I don't like work with the kid at all. I don't work at Texas, so I have no basis to go off of for that kind of conversation. But he definitely has seemed like he's doubled down. He's been all business this past off season, so it's gonna be really cool to see if he can come out and maybe pick up. Without Bijan Robinson, without that help, and he can put the team on his shoulders this time. I hope the best for him. I think that'd be great. It would be cool if the Texas ended up doing well, as I said, and then you get to see a competition between Quinn Ewers and maybe Kyle McCord in the playoff spot. That'd be really, really good for the game, a really good game to watch in general. But coming in on our second guy for the B tier, my man, Marvin the Martian, Harrison Jr. This guy is unreal. Like, there's nothing he can't do at the wide receiver position. And it's going to be hard to win the Heisman as a wide receiver, but I would not put it past him. If there's any wide receiver to do it, I could see him doing it.
I mean, we haven't seen a wide receiver prospect coming up like this since maybe Megatron. Like a guy who, seems like he's, kind of guaranteed himself a top 5 position in next year's draft as long as he can stay healthy. Jackson Smith and Jigba did get similar comparisons last year, but I mean, due to his health and not being able to stay on the field, his draft stock ultimately fell. But the things we've seen Marvin Harrison Jr. do on the field have not been seen ever. The catches he's made, the fact that he can get open on any route, it's crazy, and I would be all for seeing a wide receiver take home this Heisman this year. That would be incredible.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a pretty epic season, but I definitely don't put past him doing it. Coming in on the other side of the rivalry, next here we got J.J. McCarthy. I think he's similar to Quinn Ewers. Similar to Jordan Travis, I should say. He's in the right environment to win the Heisman. I think this is his year to put the Wolverines on his back, really show out with the passing game. Unlike last year, I feel like they really held on to the run game. And then he can put up some big numbers if he continues what he's doing.
Yeah, I was always very concerned with J.J. McCarthy for a while. Due to last year, it just seemed like Michigan relied on the run game a lot. It didn't seem like we really got to see that full J.J. McCarthy experience that, most college football fans were hoping for. But then I watched the college football playoff semifinal, and he threw those 2 bad interceptions, pick sixes early, whatever. But what really stood out to me was the fact that he didn't give up in that game, and he brought them back. And if you didn't watch the game and you just looked at the score, you would have been like, oh, it's a close game. Like, no. J.J. McCarthy worked his ass off, made all the right decisions, was an elusive runner. He was everything Michigan had wanted him to be in that second half of that ball game. And I think that's exactly why he deserves a spot in the big tier.
Yeah, that game was not close, and I think it was very close to being a big blowout. And Harbaugh said, you got to go out there and make some plays for me, and he definitely did.
Yeah, that's a 5-star right there.
100%.
Coming in after J.J. McCarthy, we got Oregon's quarterback, Bo Nix. Now, Bo Nix, I personally was a Bo Nix hater. I did not like Bo Nix all his years at Auburn. I thought he was very overrated. I thought he wasn't a good passer. But now he's not in the SEC, and he's playing these Pac-12 defenses, and he could torch those all day. And if there's going to be a quarterback that can just, like, that has, like, the offense that's just, like, handed to him, it's Bo Nix. Bo Nix can do practically whatever he wants. Last year, you saw his touchdown numbers went up significantly compared to what it was at Auburn, both in the air and with his legs. I wouldn't be surprised if Bo Nix could be in this Heisman race at the end of the year.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I was when he was it back at Ole Miss, right? You said Auburn, that's right. When he was back at Auburn, I wasn't a huge fan of him. I always thought he was kind of overrated. I thought he kind of got a little bit of an overrate because he was in the SEC, and they were like, oh, well, he's in the SEC, so he must be good. So I wasn't a huge fan, although he does have a pretty sick name. I think Bo Nix is just kind of a Heisman-winning name.
Yeah.
Like, can't beat it, but he's played great at Oregon. He really drives that offense, and it's going to be really exciting to see what he can do because I think it's Dan Lanning is the head coach of Oregon.
Yes.
And I'm a huge Dan Lanning fan. That man is...
Former Georgia defensive coordinator.
Yeah, very good. Done great things at Oregon. And those two together, I think, might have a pretty special year this year. But coming in next on the B tier, another Michigan player, Blake Corum. Haven't had any running backs up until this point, but I think out of all the running backs, Blake Corum's probably got the best chance. We saw what he could do last year. He was in the conversation last year. Got injured, so it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with them this year. But I think he's got definitely a chance for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough for a running back to win Heisman at this stage of where we're at. It's a very quarterback-dominated award, but if there is a running back that deserves to be in kind of the conversation here, especially from last year's performance, it's Blake Corum. Every game we saw Blake Corum play last year, he was able to rush for multiple or 100-yard games easily. He had touchdown numbers that weren't even close to the fellow running backs behind him. So he deserves a spot in this B tier here, especially since he was a part of it for so long last year. But it is going to be very tough for him to win it. It's kind of the start of where it's going to get a little gritty, I'd say.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And I think especially in this year with so many good quarterbacks, like maybe if there was a lot of not returning quarterbacks and a lot of not very high quarterbacks, but I feel like this year we got a lot of quarterbacks that could be making splashes.
On to our next Heisman Watch candidate. We got Sam Hartman, Notre Dame's quarterback. Last year at Wake Forest, he had put up some very attractive touchdown numbers, I'd say, and looked like he could be in the Heisman race for a while, but it seemed like, maybe it was the team that was holding him back. So I think now that he's upgrading on team with Notre Dame being the high-level elite quarterback he is, like, why not make a splash this year for Sam Hartman? Sam Hartman for Heisman, please.
Starting it now. Sam Hartman for Heisman.
Again,
start it early. Get it in people's ears so we can get it down. Sam Hartman for Heisman. Go Irish. But I'm just excited to see Hartman play with the Irish this year. I feel like last year that team, they just ran the ball and everybody knew they were running the ball, and somehow they still, you couldn't stop them. They were just running it down your throat, hard nose. And then now they come in and get Sam Hartman.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a really underrated offense this year. They're going to make some big splashes that a lot of people are not expecting, especially from a team like Notre Dame that usually hasn't had a very high-powered, big play offense, but that's going to change this year for sure.
Couldn't agree with you more, Kev.
Speaking about high powered though,
Yep.
my God, Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers.
I don't even know where to start with this man.
Coming in at our last spot in the B tier, we got Brock Bowers, who is a freak of nature, I'd say. Just kind of the Travis Kelce of college football.
Yeah.
Just like seemingly like he's just like a big white dude that no one can guard. And he can get open on anyone. He'll make any catch. He deserves a spot in B tier, and we're hoping that Georgia's offense, if they want to keep producing at the level they have been, get the ball to Brock Bowers.
Yeah, I think out of respect for one of my favorite players growing up, I don't want to call him Megatron, although he probably deserves the nickname, but the man's a monster. I don't know. He's a matchup nightmare. Like, I have no clue what defenses are going to do with him because he's practically a wide receiver that can block anybody.
Yeah. I've never seen a tight end that I think could, like, really go top 10 in an NFL draft until I've been watching Brock Bowers. Just a wide receiver that plays tight end that is better than every single tight end in college football. This guy could have won in the first round.
Oh, he was the best tight end in this draft if he was in it, 100%.
And even his freshman year, I would put him at the top tight end. But, at the tight end position, you're not going to be looked out as a Heisman candidate. But if there was a Heisman tight end, it should 100% be Brock Bowers.
Yeah, the guy's nuts. Honestly, we'll have to see how the season goes, but I really hope maybe the Bears could possibly pick him up, seeing how Komet does this year. Yeah. Not nothing against Komet, but if he has kind of an season, I think Brock Bowers and Justin Fields can do a lot of damage. That would be pretty sick.
That would be very nice.
I love Bowers, but to get onto the C tier now, these are your dark horses pretty much. We got the first one who was kind of on the brink between B and C, Michael Penix out of Washington. He is, I think he started out kind of mediocre at IU, but he really blossomed when he's gotten to Washington, and his pass game, the way he's been able to extend plays, it's been really good there.
So he followed his offensive coordinator. So he played his first 2 years at Indiana. His offensive coordinator the first year left. That was the year Penix was good. And he went to Washington. And then Penix played his second year at IU. Did not have a great season. And then he went to Washington his third year. And that's when we really saw the Michael Penix that we all thought we were going to get from his freshman year, because Michael Penix took this Indiana program that seemed to be just dead, bottom of the pack, or bottom of the Big 10, and he gave him hope for a year. But now he's in the Pac-12, and as I've said 100 times, Pac-12 defenses are terrible. They are not good. And Michael Penix can go all day on these guys. And if, he has a high touchdown season, low interceptions, leads an explosive offense, yeah, why not get my Heisman?
We'll see what Deion Sanders does about that bad defense track you got for Pac-12. I'm sure he probably takes offense to that. But next, speaking of Pac-12, number 2 in the C tier, Cam Rising, a big dark horse here. Let's talk about putting a team on your shoulders. I think Cam Rising does that every damn game. And then it's not a shot to Utah because they have a hell of a team, but Cam Rising seems to always will that team to victory.
Yeah, again, I'm going to say it again. I'm not a big Utah guy. I'm really not, but I am a Cam Rising guy. I find that Cam Rising is one of those guys that is going to put his head down and do everything he can to win a ball game. I see no quit in this guy. I see just a lot of grit. And I'm a big fan of Cam Rising. I think that, if Utah does pull off a perfect season, because that's pretty much the reality of all these players we're talking about now, they need to be perfect to win this Heisman Award. Cam Rising is going to need to be perfect to win it, but he does have the heart
100%.
for a Heisman.
Oh, yeah.
Moving on from Cam Rising, we got Clemson's quarterback, Cade Klubnik. Now, Cade Klubnik, very highly ranked recruit coming into Clemson. Got an opportunity in the bowl game last year to make a step up, or to kind of solidify his place in college football as a top-tier quarterback, and did not perform up to standards, but he had some games earlier in the season when he would come in for DJU and bring Clemson back. And that's kind of why I think he deserves to be mentioned in this Heisman conversation, because he does have that it factor,
Yeah, the bowl game definitely worries me for him, because I was like, I expected him, especially against a Tennessee defense that had been kind of beat up by good offenses. 100%. I was like, I thought he would play better. But he did save Clemson a couple times after DJU was struggling. And that's where I get a little bit of hope from him, and I think he gets on this list because he's one of those players that he's in the right position. He's a quarterback for Clemson, and any quarterback for Clemson's automatically going to be at least the bottom of the Heisman Watch, because if you show out as a quarterback for Clemson, you're going to be there. You're going to be out. You're going to be in the conversation, no matter what your recruiting ranking was or whatever. You'll be there. It's 100%. Moving on to our next guy here, someone that personally I'm pretty high on, but I think he'll probably rely on someone earlier on this list. We got Kyle McCord. Similar to Caleb Klubnik, when you're a quarterback for Ohio State, your name's automatically going to be on Heisman Watch lists. Like, there's no doubt about it. But I think he will rely on Harrison a lot, and even especially a really good wide receiver group going into this year with Emeka Egbuka and Julian Fleming. But he's a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He's looked really good. He does have that high school connection with Harrison, playing in high school with him. So hopefully that chemistry gets him into the rhythm with things, and he shows out.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle McCord, there's not really much on him. The Ohio State quarterback position has been pretty solidified for the last 2 years, so the Kyle McCord tape is few and far in between. But, if I hear that you're throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr. in high school, I got to assume you got to have a great connection, and having the top wide receiver in college football is definitely going to help. And being in what is consistently a top 5 offense every year.
They'll be top 2, I feel like, for sure. It's between them and USC this year.
Yeah.
There's no competition after that.
He has got a great run game behind him with Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams, who aren't even mentioned on this list, but both of them easily could be. So there's their mention right there. But
it's an honorable mention.
Yeah, this Ohio State team is stacked, and if they can do some damage, why not give their quarterback some love and give him that Heisman? Moving on from him, our next guy that we listed in C tier is Spencer Rattler. Now, this might be a little bit of an unpopular take. Spencer Rattler has not been the most likable guy in his college days, as more and more has been found out about him. Doesn't really seem like the best locker room guy. Got benched at Oklahoma, which was very surprising, but you cannot take away the success he had at South Carolina last year, especially after an unfortunate start to the season. It seemed like they were kind of being looked over, and they had lost a couple games that it seems like they should have won. But that South Carolina team to end that season was red hot. it seemed like they could have beaten anyone. And Spencer Rattler, although he does have the tendency to make a mistake, he can make any play on the football field still. He still has that talent.
Yeah, the throws he makes sometimes are unreal. I think a lot of people sometimes forget when they're talking about college football that they're talking about like damn near children. So, and that's not like any sort of diss on college football players because I'm the same age as them. But like they're definitely still maturing, so I don't really try not to blame any of them for maybe having head screw loose or something because I think he really seemed like he was pulling that team together at the end of the season last year. He was becoming a leader. He clearly has the talent to show off.
Yeah.
I think he has a lot of up or a lot of down this season, but if it's up, it's going to be really up for sure.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's a guy we were talking about. It was just 2 years ago. He was the favorite to win the Heisman. And now he's probably not even getting mentioned in these.
I think he was above Caleb Williams at one point, wasn't he? Wasn't Caleb Williams under him?
He started over Caleb Williams their freshman year. So he was the one guy there.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got the talent to do it.
Yeah.
But speaking of talent, Joe Milton, that man can chuck a ball. That's for sure. He can throw one hell of a ball. It's either going to be in the stands or it's going to be right to the wide receiver. So kind of like Rattler, if he can find some consistency, and he can play that form that we've seen him play over and over, then I think he for sure is going to be in this spot in this conversation.
Yeah, coming off what was Hendon Hooker legacy year, there's going to be a lot of eyes on this Tennessee quarterback position. And Joe Milton has some pretty big shoes to fill. But from what we saw from his time at the end of the season last year with Tennessee and playing in that bowl game against Clemson, it seemed like he could step up and could make the adjustment to some SEC football and playing at some higher elite level. But again, I don't think I can confidently name a stronger arm in the SEC. Like, in terms of throwing the ball as far as you could, I feel like I'd put my money on Joe Milton, but if I needed someone to make a pass, definitely, again, S tier, Caleb Williams, #1 player in college football. Just, if you don't know anything about college football, just know Caleb Williams is the next best thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, he just looks insane out there.
I just want to make sure everyone knows that. Everyone who's talking, I don't know anything about college football, Brett. Just know Caleb Williams, that's going to be Mahomes' predecessor there. That's the next dude.
You've already got ESPN talking about NFL teams that could possibly try and tank for him.
Yeah.
And season's weeks away still at this point.
They were talking about them tanking for him before the last draft even happened. It's absurd the amount of hype that this kid has, and it's well-deserved hype. But
100%.
Sorry. Got a little off track.
Tangent. Back to the S tier for a second, but back down to C tier.
Back down to C tier. Yeah, Joe Milton, Tennessee. If Josh Heupel's offense is as good as it seemed last year and Joe Milton steps right up, he has a very real case for Heisman. But on to what looks to be the second best running back in college football right now, Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. A hard-nosed runner. He's going to run you over, but he's going to have to pull off some freak number of yards or touchdowns in order to be in this competition.
Yeah, I think, as we said, Blake Corum's definitely, I think in my mind, got that #1 running back spot coming into the season. #2 is very much up in the air, but I think Braylon Allen gets this spot just because he's going to have to really put the team on his back for this season. They have a good quarterback transfer coming in, but he's probably going to need some time getting used to the offense. Mm-hmm. He's going to need to adjust. Allen played great last year. We know the tradition and the history of Wisconsin running backs.
Run the
damn ball. And if he follows in those footsteps, he's going to be a really good running back, and he's going to put up a lot of numbers, but he is going to need a ton of numbers to overcome some of these running back or some of these quarterbacks. My bad. But after him, we got another running back who I think could also do the same thing. We got Quinshon Judkins down in Ole Miss. They also, I believe, have quarterback coming in, correct?
Ole Miss?
Yeah.
They just got the Spencer Sanders transfer from Oklahoma State, but they still got Jackson Dart, so it's kind of a QB competition they got there. So they could be relying heavy on this run game.
We'll see what they do, but I think either way they might be relying heavy on the run game, and I think Judkins is the guy to rely on.
Yeah, definitely.
He's gonna put up some numbers.
And with Zach Evans out of the backfield, because he was an elite prospect last year, that they kind of had to, give him his fair share. But now that it's kind of more of Judkins' backfield, we could see a lot. A Lane Kiffin offense can do a lot with a running back like Judkins, so keep your eye out on him for this year.
As we said before, never count Lane Kiffin out.
Yeah, never count Lane Kiffin out. And that also leads us to our 20 spot, which is Spencer Sanders, Ole Miss transfer, along with Jackson Dart. Whoever is the quarterback here for Ole Miss deserves just a nod in this Heisman Watch. Lane Kiffin is, in my eyes, an offensive mastermind, and Spencer Sanders is coming off what was a terrific couple years at Oklahoma State. Had put up great numbers in every game in the Big 12, to be fair. He was putting up a lot of points, throwing for a lot of TDs, keeping their offense in games always consistently. And then you also got Jackson Dart, who is a high-ranking prospect who is coming off his sophomore season where he did show massive improvements from what we saw at USC. So I think they definitely are worth a mention in this Heisman Watch.
Yeah, I think similar to how I've mentioned like a few other times with people on this list so far, they're in the right spot to be if they want to win the Heisman. Ole Miss hasn't really had two great seasons recently, but they pull off some good upsets, and if you get a guy at quarterback who can will you to a couple of upsets in the SEC, he's going to immediately skyrocket into that Heisman conversation. Personally, I think it's going to be Sanders that gets the starting position, but we'll see if Dart maybe gives him a run for his money, shows out. But either of them, if they play good enough to upset Bama, upset some other SEC teams, you could definitely see them pull themselves into the conversation this year.
Yeah, folks, that's all we got for you today. I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. If you do us a favor and subscribe down below, check the links in the podcast, or check the links in the bio. Also, give us a follow on Twitter at Pylon2, Pylon Pod. Much appreciated it. This is Bro Landmeier signing off.
This is Kevin Brueggemann also signing off.
And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, guys.